Okay, so we're back. Hope you guys like the new studio. All right, no, this is not your regularly scheduled programming. I am not in my studio. We'll keep this between me and you, but let's just say I had to get out of there for just a couple days. But it doesn't stop me from bringing you guys that breaking news, and good God, folks, it's breaking harder than my back is trying to carry this entire scene because these YouTube boxing events either are canceled or fights keep falling out, postponements, replacement opponents. It's a nightmare and we're living it. Now, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about and you're like, why is Wade screaming like a madman in front of a wall that's wider than his teeth? Well, it's because Alex Wassabi is officially out of the KSI fight. But not only that, we have a new opponent for KSI. It is, who? The breakdown. Let's go. So yes, Alex Wassabi pulled out of this fight. Apparently he had a concussion. I'll tell you from firsthand knowledge, you don't play around with concussions. I've had like 5 in my life, and they take a couple of weeks to heal, on top of the fact that you can't really do anything while you're trying to heal that concussion. You can't really train or run or even do the stuff outside of sparring because you have to kind of rest and let that heal. And if you don't, that's when things start to compile and brain injury on top of brain injury on top of brain injury start to pile up because you never let that first one heal properly. And that's when permanent damage starts to happen. We've talked about this with Gib. This YouTube boxing scene is starting to see the reality of boxing. Injuries happen, and unfortunately they're happening at the worst times because now Alex is having to pull out of this event. And by the way, anybody blaming Alex is moronic. I saw people online saying stuff like, oh, Alex was never gonna fight him. He was always gonna pull out. He was scared of KSI. For what reason would Alex solely dedicate himself to going 2 times, sometimes 3 times a day to Brian Valoria's gym? Again, a former world champion 4 times over. I saw the guys he was sparring in there. I even saw some of the sparring footage with Alex in there with cruiserweights. He had a strength and conditioning coach. He was, again, working 2 to 3 times a day in there. There's no shot Alex did not want this fight. Of course he did. And no, he wasn't scared to fight KSI. He got injured. It happens. Stop with that shit. So Alex fell out, but the event stayed on. And so immediately everyone started thinking, who's the next opponent? Is it Austin McBroom because he doesn't have a fight right now? We're still waiting on what happens with Gib, and KSI and Austin is a natural fight that we all do want to see. Problem with that is Austin would probably ask for $1 bajillion for the overinflated pay-per-view value he brings. That would not have made sense. And then some people said face temper. Again, I thought this would be a great matchup. KSI had said, hey, I beat Alex, maybe I go on and take on Temper because of these ICB belts that, to be honest, I know they're trying to do a good thing. I don't really fucking understand why we have. For instance, we have an international belt and a world title and rankings for both belts, but they mean the same thing. But the fight made sense. Blueface couldn't fight Temper because the issues he's got going on, so you bump Temper from the co-main, put him in the main. I'm down with that, but that's not gonna happen either. And the only reason I can think of is because you don't wanna lose a fight, right? If you bring Temper from the co-main to the main, that takes one more fight off the card, but I still would've liked that fight. And then the big one, people were calling for it. It was all over Twitter. Jake Paul, KSI. First off, I just want to remind people that fight's not happening, so it's not like I'm breaking some news that that is the one. He's not the replacement opponent, but let's talk a little bit about what happened anyway. So as soon as this fight was called off between Alex and KSI, Jake hopped on Twitter to start clowning KSI, and even to a degree that was like clowning him in spite of the guy that he represents. While Alex is like down in the dumps and he can't have this fight, Jake's like laughing at KSI for it, kind of dancing on Alex's grave a bit there. But I have to say, for the rivalry of KSI and Jake takes this chapter because he played this as a PR move flat out perfectly. Everything from KSI saying Jake wouldn't agree to come fight on his card, to come to his weight, to fight him for free or for less money so KSI could be the ace side. Jake called his bluff and said, I'll do all those things if you'll just fight me.
Oh, KSI's fight, man. I heard the news. It sucks for Alex. Obviously, he has a concussion. He can't fight, but now this puts KSI into a corner. If he doesn't accept the fight with me, we all just know that he's scared. KSI, I will come to London. I will weigh 180 pounds for the fight. You could be the A side. What's your excuse? Do you accept?
And no, the fight realistically was never gonna happen. This is the biggest fight we can make in the influencer boxing scene, so to throw it away on 3 weeks build makes no sense. And KSI said as much. And again, I don't blame KSI for not fighting Jake right now. No, I don't think he's scared of Jake. I do think he wants to fight Jake. But in my opinion, he He's not ready. He's been out for 3 years. This is not someone that's been continuously fighting. Jake will have that experience. Plus the fact that he just went through a full training camp, even if it wasn't for KSI, it was for 2 pro boxers. And again, for Jake, that's the majority of the time he gets better in those camps. And like I said, this is the biggest fight YouTube boxing can make. Throwing pay-per-views out the window by giving it no build makes no sense for either guy. This needs a Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather-esque 2-3 months of build to really take this to the next level, because that is the peak of YouTube boxing right now. Those two, and to waste it on 3 weeks notice, it makes no sense. But it was an opportunity for Jake to play semantics and play the PR game, and I have to say he did it pretty damn well here. But then we actually get to our replacement opponent, and drum roll please, it's KSI versus Swarms? Swarms. First off, let me say this. I commend KSI on keeping this card together, because on 3 weeks notice, when someone falls out, it's hard to keep a card together. We have a perfect example of that. What would have been Jake Paul fighting yesterday in Madison Square Garden is no longer happening. But KSI keeping the event together, at least for the fighters on the undercard, fair play to him. Now, as far as his actual opponent pick, I'm gonna say something here, and I don't mean it with any kind of disrespect, but who the is that? Does he box? And has he ever boxed? I mean, I'm assuming because he was the backup fighter that KSI and their team were paying him to be in camp, to be a backup, right? To be ready if this were to happen. But how long has he been in a camp? How long has he ever thrown punches for? Has he ever been in any kind of fight? I mean, he's got a t-shirt on in the poster they made of him. I mean, there's not that... And what's the backstory here? It's like him and KSI did a song called Houdini, which I guess kind of fits now, because as soon as this thing was announced, the fan interest did its own Houdini act and completely disappeared. Jokes aside, I understand. This is not a situation that anyone wanted, especially not KSI. I know that. I know he didn't want to fight Swarm. No disrespect to Swarms. Maybe he is this ridiculously talented boxer after 2 or 3 months, but I think the reason the fans are frustrated with this is because that's probably not the case. And I gotta be honest here, the best guy for this position was FaZe Temper. He's already on the card. He has fight experience, and sure, it's a tough fight for JJ. It's a different fight for JJ. Temper being bigger, longer reach, he's gonna have to do some things akin to the Logan fight maybe, but we were already in crunch time. We were already 3 weeks away, and if we wanted to make this a competition-based, credible main event with a big name and a major organization behind him, FaZe Temper, in my opinion, was the guy here. YouTube boxing, yes, we need names, but it's not just the names. We do need, especially in our main events, some sort of competition. I think it's just hard for a lot of people to wrap their heads around this, even possibly being competitive. And that's why you're seeing the blowback from the fans. I guess I could say they were in a tough spot and they picked what they thought was best money-wise and name value-wise for this UK audience. I just don't know if this opponent is the right pick, but that's just me. So maybe you guys, let me know down below what you think of this whole situation. Alex, KSI, Jake, KSI, and now KSI Swarms. You know, I could just ask KSI those same questions in person. I wonder if that could be a possibility. I guess we'll find out.